Hey guys, welcome back to another video.
What's wrong, F-? Besides, like, your appearance.
Oh hey, A+, haven't seen you in a while.
And I haven't seen you upload in forever. You're running late on rent. What's your excuse this time?
Well, it's kind of hard to keep uploading on a consistent schedule when I get so many mean comments, man. You know, it's just kind of demotivating sometimes.
I see. Now, this may sound foreign to you, but have you ever tried uploading good videos by any chance? Perhaps you'll get less mean comments if you just uploaded good, watchable content.
Anyways, I also get burnout.
No, you don't get burnout. What you're experiencing is being a pathetic loser who acts all depressed because his crush won't text him even acknowledge his existence.
Well, I'm sure that's a factor, but I really think that my main problem is deadlines stress me out.
Quit lying. What deadline? The maybe one video a month deadline? It's not the deadlines that's stressing you out. What's stressing you out is the fact that you're a pathetic loser who built his entire life on making videos. Therefore, if you're not consistently uploading videos, you feel more and more like a pathetic loser because you have nothing to lean on. And you suck.
Not helping?
Whatever. Go watch My Little Pony. Go do your next episode in your little retrospective series. I'm sure that'll make you feel better.
What? Since when do you care about how I feel?
I don't. I really don't. I just want you to hurry up and make your next video so I can steal your paycheck.
Fine, but this next episode better have nothing to do with themes of stress and deadlines, because I have enough of that on my mind already, and I don't need, like, my favorite show ever to shove it down my throat right now. Alright, I've got this.
My little pony, my little pony.
Interestingly, as the first real episode of the second season, as in not a two-parter, we get a new updated version of the theme song, instead of the one that was used in season 1.
I used to wonder what friendship could be.
Both sound-wise and visual-wise. But like we did when we covered season 1, we'll go over that in much more detail in the season overview rather than right now. I will say for now though, this theme song is actually putting me in such a comfortable state that I kind of forgot what I was even worrying about. I mean, it's not like the episode itself is going to contain any themes of stress and deadlines, so let's just get started with the episode already.
I'm supposed to send Princess Celestia a letter every week, not every other week, every single week.
Please don't tell me this is going where I think it's going.
When did we send the last one?
Last Tuesday?
And today is...
Tuesday?
Ah! I missed the deadline. I'm a bad student.
I can't do this anymore, man. I just got betrayed by the one thing that I actually like in this universe. I can't. Oh. Well, it seems as if the usual host of this channel has passed out. Yet a video must still be made. I guess we have no choice but to carry on with the far more handsome talent as the host for this video. Now, I don't know anything about this show because I'm not a 9-year-old girl, but I'll give it a try anyway, I suppose.
Quill.
Check.
Parchment.
Check.
Extra ink.
Check.
Extra ink.
Check.
Hey, are you sure you're out cold? I'm not sure I want to do this anymore.
Is that everything on the checklist? Now that we've completed the checklist of things we need to create a checklist, we can make my checklist of the things I have to get done by the end of the day. Item 1. Create checklist of the things I have to accomplish by the end of the day.
Can we start a counter for every time they say checklist throughout this episode, please? You and me both, Purple Man. I'm sighing having to watch this. I'm sure it's all the more painful to have to actually be a character in the show.
Let's see. We've already dropped off your cape at the cleaners.
Never mind, it's giving my name a shout-out. I suppose this show just got a billion times handsomer.
Ordered new parchment and quills from the stationery shop.
Seems like we just placed an order for those a few days ago.
Can't imagine why they go through so many of them.
Okay, that was pretty funny. What isn't funny is this next part, where the purple horse and her dragon slave go get a dozen confectionaries, but ends up getting 13 instead. And this happens.
It's just that I'm planning on sharing these at a picnic later, and I don't want any pony to feel like some pony else is getting more icing. Not to worry, I'll just move some of this one to... I think I may have scooped too much. Oops, now those two have more. Let's just try this again. No, that won't do. Let me just put some here, then... No, that's not right. Maybe more on this one. Wait. I'll just... Ooh, a little bit here, here, and perfect.
Which, in theory, I guess is a fine joke, but it lasts for about half a minute, and that's not an insubstantial amount of time for a 22-minute episode. Though, honestly, because I'm not Mr. Negative Nancy all the time like Mr. Grumpy Pants here, I actually see two sides of this. Firstly, negatively, this is a waste of time, spending roughly 2.3% of the episode length on a single visual gag that obviously didn't take as much wit as other jokes in the episode so far, and is ultimately nothing more than move icing here and there and there and there. But on the other hand, positively, spending this much time on one thing like this is actually good because it shows you that our main character here has odd habits like this that are slowly seeping out before we get to the main point of the episode. And honestly, I actually lean more towards the positive side. But on that topic, let's actually examine what this episode has to say about this purple horse and its mental state. Obviously, there's explorations of stress and anxiety, which I'm sure a lot of us can relate to. So let's see what we, as the viewer, can learn about what this episode proposes as a solution to this problem, and see if it's applicable to our lives back home. That way, we actually gain something from watching this episode. CF, this is how you make a video with an actual focus and point and analysis, rather than just, I don't know, a 6.5-hour yap session with no coherent idea that nobody cares about. I shall not let my personal biases color our discussion of this episode. Unlike what you do, F, when the little pony gets home, she comes to realize that she hasn't sent her homework to her master in over a week.
We haven't sent a letter to Princess Celestia this week.
And starts crashing out. And here's where we need to pay attention. We see her train of thought when she starts overthinking here. And I really found her train of thought to be pretty interesting. And I decided to map it out because I think we're all kind of prone to doing similar things. I'll first break down all the steps Twilight's mental state goes through, and then we'll go back and relate it to a real world example. Step 1. She starts off with an objective statement.
If I don't send her a letter by sundown, I'll be late. I'll be late. I've never been late with an assignment.
Such as that she is late with her assignment. That's how all anxiety start. Of course, anxiety comes in all shapes and sizes, but they all stem from an observable and objective issue. Once again, I'll elaborate on this way more later. Step 2. She then puts the authority of the situation on an incredibly high pedestal.
This is the ruler of all of Equestria we're talking about. Pony who holds my fate in her hooves.
Twilight says all this about the princess, which honestly sounds like how some people may very well describe God. And I understand that from what I could gather, Princess Celestia is the ruler of the country, but it seems like a bit of a stretch to say that she, quote, holds her fate in her hooves. Holds the situation and potential punishment in her hooves? Sure, but Twilight lets the fact that she's late for an assignment equate to her entire life being destroyed. Step 3. As a bit of an extension on the last point, she starts losing sight of the bigger picture.
What if she doesn't forgive me?
Twilight is now afraid that this one letter out of like hundreds of others she submitted on time is what's going to ruin her relationship with the princess. As I understand from research, because I actually put research into my videos, unlike our friend here, your friend here, some guy here. What was I saying? Oh yeah. As I understand from research, Princess Celestia is known to have forgiven her sister for far worse, such as turning into a super scary villain, and Twilight knows this firsthand. She's just not thinking straight here. Step 4. She stops being reasonable and starts doing hypothetical back and forths.
Instead, she starts thinking I'm not taking my studies on friendship seriously. What if she makes me come back to Canterlot and puts me back in school and makes me prove I've been taking them seriously by giving me a test?
As we can see here, Twilight starts thinking of random scenarios and straw men guarding this hypothetical version of an unforgiving Celestia that she came up with in her head, and doubting herself even more in this completely hypothetical scenario.
What if I don't pass?
Step 5. She completely lets her imagination fill in every gap instead of relying on facts anymore.
Do you know what teachers do to students who don't pass? They send them back a grade!
At this point, Twilight is just headcanoning and essentially writing fanfiction about this unforgiving, test-giving, vindictive, doubting, and unreasonable version of the princess that she came up with to begin with. Sixth and the final step, all this results in nonsense.
She won't just send me back a grade. She'll send me back to magic kindergarten.
Twilight concludes with the notion that all of this will get her sent back to magic kindergarten, if that's even a real thing. Notice how we originally started with something factual and objective, such as, if I don't submit an assignment by the deadline, it will be a late assignment. And we colored that into, I'm going to be enlisted into magic kindergarten. That's a bit of a stretch. But speaking of things being a stretch, you may be thinking, but A, are we to reasonably assume that you can extrapolate what a fictional character went through and relate it to real life anxieties? Well, I think so. Like I said, I'll provide an example that's more applicable to the real world without the inclusion of princesses and magic and purposefully comedic exaggerations and all that. So let's just say hypothetically, I'm cheating on my girlfriend. Actually, we don't need to put hypothetically there. I am cheating on my girlfriend. Yet it's behind her back and she doesn't know. Unless if she does know, yet still chooses to be with me. If that's the case, she's the bad guy, not me. She's bringing heartbreak upon herself at that point. Hashtag not my problem. But to keep this in the realm of hypothetical, let's say, God forbid, I'm on a date with my official lame and boring girlfriend, yet I forget to turn on Do Not Disturb on my phone. And whilst on this date, ping, I get a text notification from one of my much more prettier and funnier side chicks saying, want a link? You know, my phone pings, it lights up. You know the drill. We all have notifications on our phones. Now, let's say I quickly cover up and hide the phone. Yet, I'm unsure if she actually had a chance to catch a glimpse of what the message said and who it was from. Brings a shiver to my spine just thinking about it. And as a result of this, I start getting anxious and overwrought with feelings of, dude, what if she saw what the message said and realizes her own sister would betray her like that? She'll leave me for sure. So from this, let's revisit the 6 steps that we observed Twilight go through and see if it lines up with what my train of thought would be from the situation. Step 1, I'll start off with an objective statement. As in, I got an incriminating text about something and from somebody my girlfriend probably wouldn't be too happy about. Step 2, I'll then put the authority of the situation on an incredibly high pedestal. Without a doubt, I'll start thinking about the ramifications of how my girlfriend has total control over the situation if it turns out that she saw. And I'll start irrationally putting her up on like this super high pedestal saying, oh, she's the ultimate judge. She has the power to break up with me against her better judgment. Step 3, I'll lose sight of the bigger picture. You know, despite the fact that I've been getting away with this for close to 3 years now, whew, time really flies, huh? And I've brushed closer to being caught, and I've bounced back every single time. I'm going to start losing sight of the larger context and start hyper-fixating on this one little slip-up being the end-all be-all. I'm just not thinking straight here at this point. Step 4, I'll stop being reasonable and start doing hypothetical back and forths. Now I'm going to start spiraling into thought that this one little slip-up is what's going to ultimately get me found out. And my brain will start going into overdrive about hypothetical arguments that her and I are going to inevitably have if she did indeed find out. Like, what if instead of just breaking up with me because she's inconsiderate and doesn't care about my feelings and wants to break my heart, she also digs around a bit and finds all my burner phones? Disaster. Step 5, I'll completely let imagination fill in every gap instead of relying on facts. At this point, I'll obviously start thinking about how rather than just breaking up with me for no good reason other than the fact that she wants to break my heart, she'll go tell all her friends, who'll tell all their friends. And before long, the entire town will know about what I did. And I get exposed and doxxed on social media and my entire life gets ruined. Step 6, all this results in nonsense. And once all that comes to mind, I'll start thinking about the implications of those consequences. And it'd be hard for me to go to sleep without a baseball bat next to my bed just in case some vigilante with nothing better to do decides to, you know, pay me a visit to avenge my girlfriend. Notice how just like Twilight, we went from I got a notification that my girlfriend may or may not have seen to I better sleep with one eye open for the rest of my life, if not move away from this town. So yes, I do believe that if we take a look at the steps of Twilight's breakdown, the process lines up with how real people think. Therefore, we can take this episode as an instructional example of how to deal with overthinking. Now, if you think I'm just crafting up a hypothetical for the sake of narrative, think back to past times when you've overthought about anxieties and stuff. I'm sure it lines up pretty well with this formula, but let's say you're currently in this kind of situation. Sure, we can retroactively apply these steps to our past thoughts to dissect our train of thinking and remind ourselves that if we ever find ourselves doing this kind of thing again, we can kind of zoom out and see that if we're following these steps, we're not being rational. But let's say you're currently in the midst of being stressed out or overthinking about something. What's the solution this episode provides for such a quandary? Well, in order to counter this, Twilight visits her friends to see if they have any problems to solve, but they don't.
So, you just lost your ribbon? But now you found it.
Yeah?
And nothing else is bothering you?
There is one thing.
Yes?
I think I left my measuring tape under the fabric over there. Could you get that for me?
Matters are made even worse when she tries opening up about her problems, with none of her friends deciding to take her problems seriously.
My letter to Princess Celestia is almost overdue, and I haven't learned anything about friendship!
Oh, thank goodness. I thought something really awful had happened.
If not just laughing at her face.
Twilight, you're such a crack-up!
Now, she may be a crack up, but I'm a crack addict. Cracking eggs, that is. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Don't skip it. Anyways, this eventually leads to her becoming a creep in order to cause a problem just to attempt to solve it.
If I can't find a friendship problem, I'll make a friendship problem. Hi, girls.
Which throws the entire town into a frenzy. But of course, all this does is make things worse.
I enchanted her, and now every pony is fighting over her. Why would you enchant your doll? I had nothing to report to Princess Celestia. I thought if I couldn't find a problem, I'd make a problem.
Which I think is kind of like an optional step 7. Step 7, optional. You take matters into your own hands and it becomes worse. As in, for Twilight, she did all this. For me, I might go crazy and start attacking people on the street for looking at me a little funny just in case they're going to be the one breaking into my house, which is obviously unhealthy. So let's see what the conclusion actually ends up being.
Today, we all learned a little something about friendship.
We learned that you should take your friend's worries seriously, even if you don't think that she has anything to worry about.
Listen to your friends. Interesting. I thought with all this setup, the answer would surely lie somewhere within Twilight's own actions and mental state, yet it instead is a lesson on what we can do as friends of people going through similar things like this, which would be to listen to what they have to say and presumably also try to help out in whatever way you can. I mean, yes, in regards to Twilight, they do say this.
You shouldn't let your worries turn a small problem into an enormously huge entire town and total chaos princesses to come and save the day problem.
But that sounds pretty much like, just be happy, bro. Which, yeah, there is some nuanced discussion to be had about that. Because training yourself to have certain outlooks on life does make you happier and less prone to worrying. But this episode doesn't really show you how to do that. It just kind of says it. So for now, I'm more interested in exploring the more easily applicable lesson from this episode, which is to be there for your friends. That is a good lesson. Now, this isn't exactly spelled out in the episode itself, but if we take a look back at our 7-point list, obviously having wise friends who are willing to listen will pull you out of this whole downward spiral before it becomes too late, especially because they'd be more grounded to reality in comparison to you just being in your head and letting your thoughts ruminate to the extent we examined. And as a result, the friends all now share the same burden, which makes the burden not feel like a burden anymore. Which is true. If I told my buddies about this whole cheating situation, I know they'd help me cover up the whole thing. Possibly by sharing false alibis to my girlfriend, possibly telling her that we have an inside joke where one of our friends in the group has the same name as my girlfriend's sister, and it was him who texted me. The possibilities are endless. And if you guys would like me to make a whole separate deep dive into how to get away with cheating and the actual surprising benefits it may have, feel free to let me know down in the comments. Now, I hear ya, but A, what if I don't have friends? What then? I'm sitting here watching a video about My Little Pony on a weekend evening. How could you possibly reasonably expect me to have any friends in the first place? Am I cursed to have anxiety and overthink forever? Well, my response to that is, that's a whole separate discussion. I'm not even saying that as a cop-out. I'm just saying this episode kind of presumes that you already have friends, which, fair enough. That's not a criticism towards the episode, obviously. I'm just saying this episode itself doesn't answer how you get friends in the first place because that wasn't its job. So, I sure do hope this show has an episode or two about how to actually make friends. Or that you already have friends. Or better yet, you don't overthink and get anxiety episodes. And if that's the case, make sure to check up on your friends. You never know what people are going through. You know, we joke on this channel a lot, we goof around, but in all honesty, go check up on some friends you may have not reached out to in a while. Just sending a simple, hey, how are you doing, could really brighten up someone's entire day and possibly save their lives. I know for a fact that I've been in some dark times where if someone just reached out and said, hey man, are you doing all right? I haven't heard you from you in a while. That would have, you know, kind of alleviated some, if not most of the pain. It's fine, I bounce back. I realize that I'm more of the type to be the one to reach out to people rather than someone who should just be waiting around all day for people to reach out to me. There's both types of people, so I'm just saying sometimes let's take initiative to be the ones to reach out to people rather than not. You really don't know what people are going through, and sometimes you can really make someone's entire day just by, you know what I mean. You're not babies. I don't have to repeat everything like 10,000 times. And as per requested by yours truly, here's is the final checklist counter in the episode.
Check, check,
Checklist? Checklist list.
check the checklist, check.
Excellent writing. Now, honestly, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't apply the lesson of this episode to my own life. And as the wise landlord of somebody who's currently, you know, in the cycle shown throughout this video, I should do my part in trying to help him out, right? Hey, buddy, I know you're still unconscious, but Is there anything you would like to add to the video, F? Perhaps some factoids about this episode that only geeks like you care about? You know, you like to talk about irrelevant details. That's how you push your video to 6.5 hours. Well, when Spike licks the frosting off of himself, his tongue is forked now when it used to just be normal. What else? The picnic scene seems to have been the inspiration for the cursed Smile HD video. Rainbow Dash wearing sunglasses became somewhat of a meme. Seems like an iconic image. Okay, what else? You know, the windmill ticking actually seems like a good way of putting us into Twilight's mental state.
Clock is ticking, Twilight. Clock is ticking.
Especially because it's normal in every shot before Twilight is stressed. So seeing it tick like this and reminding Twilight and the audience that we're on a time crunch is a very nice insight into Twilight's sanity slowly slipping. We're almost seeing her project her mental state into her environment. Vital information, thank you, nerd. And you know, speaking of Twilight, the meta-textual point of this episode was the writers trying to think of an excuse to not shoehorn Twilight in every episode, because season 1 had her in every episode even when she really wasn't needed, and in fact hurt the plot, which actually doesn't seem like something you would need a canon excuse for. But then again, I guess the primary reason was to have the rest of the main 6 able to relay lessons as well.
I'll forget Twilight's punishment on one condition. From this day forth, I would like you all to report to me your findings on the magic of friendship.
Which, yeah, does need a canon excuse. So I guess by that logic, the whole Twilight aspect is just a byproduct side effect of the actual thing, which is, do you ever just like shut up? What? It's cool dissecting writing rhetoric. Speaking of writing rhetoric, I thought this episode had excellent examples of the rule of 3, which is the concept that the same joke being presented 3 times throughout makes for the best impact. Funnily, I think we can see this actually appear 3 times throughout the episode, such as Spike breaking the 4th wall with these gags.
What's that now?
And with Sweetie Belle saying,
I really like her mane. I really like her mane. I really like her mane.
And with Rarity saying,
Of all the worst things that could happen, this is the worst possible thing. Of all the worst things that could happen, this is the worst possible thing. Of all the worst things that could happen, this is the worst possible thing.
wow, okay, I'm sure the lives of our viewers have improved with all that knowledge, right guys? Y'all came for tips about how to manage mental health and stress, and left with a bit of screenwriting technique on top of that. Don't ever say we didn't give you anything for free. Oh, there's also that whole Princess Aurora thing. You know what? This actually reinvigorated my energy. Honestly, my whole theory with this alicorn is that I don't care.